Two men, one winner. The first found fame from funny FIFA videos.
Flawless victory.
Racist.
Fatality.
The second flourished under Faze. Now they will battle it out in the OVO arena this Saturday night to find out who is the victor. It is the Fat Neek versus a man people think is named after a mattress because Slim put him to sleep. It is KSI versus Faze the Temperrr Mattress Temperrr. Hey everyone, hope you liked that little intro. Now as we all know, Dildo Drain Piss has pulled out of the fight, meaning that KSI has had to replace him with none other than Faze Temperrr. Now I think that is a better matchup for KSI, but I'm going to save that for later because what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through the entire Misfits 4 card from prelims up until the main event and give not only who I think is going to win, but also who I want to win. Now this card is stacked and I can't wait for it. So without further ado, let's get into it. So our first fight is Bdave versus Alex Wassabi. Now I didn't know who Bdave was at first, but after searching for him, he turns out to be the guy that we saw in that Fusi training video. You know, the one where he's being hit in the stomach and the guy can't take it and then Fusi steps up and he can take it. Now, we saw what happened to Fusi against Deji and he was the one who could take it. Bdave was the one who pussied out. So, what do I think will happen with Bdave versus Alex Wassabi? Well, Alex, when he was against Deji, he looked alright. He had good outside and inside game. He was piecing Deji up at times, and it wasn't the best Deji, we know that, but he still did it to Deji, regardless. And Deji hits hard, whether he's fat or not. Deji hits hard, and Alex wore it well, and he was able to come forward. A man who lost to Fusi, let's not forget, in a spar. He got knocked out by Fusi. So, I think Alex will probably go in there and win. I think he'll probably be on points. I don't see him knocking this Bdave out unless Bdave is chinny for whatever reason. But I've not seen any footage from that Bdave, so I can't really say how good of a boxer he is. From the short things that I have seen, I can probably make a guess that he's not very good. But I just haven't seen enough from him. So, comparing what I've seen from him to what I've seen from Alex, I think that Alex is going to come out with the win. I could be wrong, but I think it will happen. I probably want Alex to win, I'll be honest. I know there's a lot of controversy around him pulling out versus KSI, and I understand that. It is crappy and shitty, and it could or could not be from a real injury. There is no way to prove concussion, but you've got to take him at his word, and he said he was concussed and he had to pull out. Then I've got to say, yeah, go with safety, live to see another fight, and he has, and he hasn't pulled out of this one. It's going to go through. Bdave is not KSI by any measure, but it is still an opponent. He's still getting in the ring and facing someone, and that's got to be commended. So, I would like to see Alex win. I'd like to see him continue. I wouldn't like to see Bdave lose in a horrible fashion because I want to see what he's about. He's been vocal in the scene with KSI before as well. I don't know how well that would do, but, you know, we'll see how he does against Alex, and then, obviously, then we can talk about bigger fights, like KSI down the line, very far down the line. But yeah, I'm excited for that one. I think Alex is probably going to come out with the victory, and I would like to see him do it. Fight number 2, Anthony Taylor versus Idris Virgo. I believe Idris Virgo is from Love Island, correct me if I'm mistaken. I haven't seen anything from him at all in the way of fighting, so I have no idea where he's at. He could be one of these Love Island guys that is a semi-pro, pro fighter. He's obviously going to be in good shape if he's come from Love Island, so you can count on him having a physique and having what you would expect to be decent cardio with all the running that he should be doing whilst looking like a Greek god, but you never know. And to add on top of that, it's against Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor. We've seen him rock, well, semi-rock Dylan Dennis, KSI's former opponent before he pulled out, and he rocked him with an overhand right, caught him on the chin, Dylan stumbled back into a truck. Is what it is. He is an ex-MMA fighter, I believe. We've seen him a couple times. He's not looked terrible in any of his fights. I think he had one fight versus another either old boxer or MMA fighter. And I think that one might be the one where everyone, including myself, was a bit disappointed because it was effectively a light spar. None of them looked like they were going out there to hurt the other. So, you know, it is what it is. He's very vocal in the scene, calling out everyone that you can imagine, and more power to him. You know, he knows how to chase the bag. He's very charismatic. He's good for drawing a crowd. I think and he can fight. He can take a punch and he can give one. We've seen it. We've seen it. So I think with time he could be one of these top dogs that everyone talks about in the scene. Obviously, he's not going to be a YouTube level pull or draw yet. And obviously he's always going to have that hindrance of, well, he's had fight experience, so he should be good. But we've seen MMA fighters get in the ring, Ben Askren, and they have not looked good at all. We've even seen pro boxers get in the ring, Pineda, and not look good at all either. So I don't think it's much of a credence to say that one man came from MMA, so therefore he should be better at boxing. We've seen it not translate time after time. Look at all Jake Paul's MMA opponents. As good as they are, Anderson Silva being the top dog of those in striking, he's past his prime, whatever, yeah. But it's still Anderson Silva, and at one point Anderson Silva would have messed almost any man on the planet up, and to beat him on points and to drop him is a big deal. But you can tell that the skill set doesn't really translate one-to-one over, because MMA is a complete holistic body exercise, and boxing is these. You've got to worry about these. It's a whole body exercise and sport, and you've got to position yourself and use footwork and body movements and all this and all that. But at the end of the day, you can't hit anyone else with anything other than these. And if you're the opponent, all you have to worry about is these. But if you spent your life worrying about this, well then suddenly just focusing on this is a lot different, because you may have mastered or think you have mastered MMA, but a master in MMA might just be a novice in one particular area. He might just be a very well-rounded fighter. And when you try to transition that into someone who's done one thing consistently, that shows you the difference between an expert and a novice, which most MMA fighters are in other areas. They'll specialise in wrestling or anything else like that, but after that they have to learn a whole complete new, whole body range of techniques and movements and strikes and defences and grappling. These are things that boxers just don't have to worry about. So naturally a boxer will be better, or someone who's trained boxing for their entire life, like Jake Paul's dedicated, what is it now, 4-5 years purely to boxing. So yeah, he should have decent experience on that one thing. When he steps into MMA, which he is now, I think we're going to see that drop off. But I'm just talking, maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see. He was a decent wrestler back in high school. Maybe he'll surprise us. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, who do I want to win out of those? I think Anthony Taylor. As I say, I don't know much about Idris. I think it's Idris. Don't know much about him, so I can't really swing in his direction because I simply don't know enough about him. Anthony Taylor, he might be loud-mouthed, you might not like him, but he's funny and entertaining in the sport. He's what you need. Third fight, Faith Ordway versus Elle Brooke. Is Elle Brooke? Well, I think she's one of the OnlyFans girls. I don't know much about internet hoes, so someone let me know who she is. Is she the one that tried to kiss KSI, or was that Astrid Wet? I don't know. I don't know. She's versus Faith Ordway. I know even less about Faith Ordway, I'll be honest. I've just searched her up, and she's got a few boxing highlights here. But the one thing that caught my eye is the third search that popped up, which was Faith Ordway N-word. So, I don't know much about them and their skill sets, but I think I'll say I want Elle Brooke to win, because anyone who's got Faith Ordway N-word and is a white girl, that's probably not a good search term, and it's not a good indicator of what she's like as a person. I might be wrong, it might just be YouTube clicks, but yeah, it's not a good look from first time impressions, is it? To search someone's name and the third search is them saying N-word, and the first search is Faith Ordway boxing because you've just searched that. So yeah, we'll see. I don't really know, let's just kind of skip over that one. I do like, I'll say, I've been entertained by most of the female boxing or crossover boxing events that I've seen, so I'm excited to see what they both bring to the table. Hopefully it's a good fight, hopefully neither of them get too hurt, and hopefully they both put on a show. The next fight, Ryan Taylor, the headbutt hero.
Nice.
Versus Swarmz, the diss track Donny.
Mad, I'm vexed, I ain't got a lie after Ryan. I wanna fight KSI. Where's Christian? I don't hear no reply. Man's called my phone, said he don't wanna fight.
Now, this is an interesting one. I think Ryan Taylor's probably going to win it. Swarmz against KSI. I mean, the less said about that, the better. Ryan Taylor, whilst he's not the best boxer, he's not very good at all in terms of his boxing ability. We saw him DQ'd in his first fight for headbutting, and in the second fight, was it against Jay Swingler, I believe. Jay pretty much pieced him up, but what we saw from that fight is Ryan has a very good ability to take damage. He takes damage and he wears it well, and he continues forward, and he doesn't really seem to get too phased. He's a very tough guy. That's one thing. He might not be the best fighter in terms of IQ and technique, but he's very tough. He's very tough, and that's half the battle in YouTube boxing. It's half the battle, because if you can take a punch as well as give it, well then you're better than most people in the scene. Swarmz can't take a punch. From what we've seen, he got dropped twice against KSI, spinning around and around and around like a ballerina, pirouetting on him, you know, falling over, eyes wide, looking at his corner, swatting punches. Not very good. Ryan, I think he's got the size on Swarmz in terms of height. I don't know about weight. Swarmz seems to have lost a lot of weight. I don't know how much weight he's lost, but in his diss track he seemed to have at least lost some weight, which is a good indicator. Again, physiques don't make fights, but it is an indicator of how hard you're putting in the effort, because most people out there aren't going to be able to be Tyson Fury level size compared to their height and fight the way he fights. It's just not possible in that amount of time. A year or two cannot suffice to what he's had to deal with. So I think Ryan Taylor will win, but I think I want Swarmz to win, you know. I think it would be fun. I like Swarmz. He took the defeat against KSI well. Not seemed to be too much bad blood between them two. And I think he's fun. He injects an energy that is needed in YouTube boxing, because some people are coming in and they're not bringing that charisma that YouTubers are supposed to bring. These are the people who are supposed to be better than boxers at bringing an audience, bringing the hype, bringing some actual character to fights and creating a storyline from it. And I think Swarmz is one of the guys who can actually do it with his diss tracks and his You know, even in the press conferences against KSI, I thought he carried himself well. So, yeah, man. Obviously, he's the GOAT as well, as we all know. So, yeah, I want Swarmz to win. But I think, realistically, Ryan's probably going to come out on top. Right. Third fight from the main event. It is Salt Papi versus Josh Brueckner. Now, could this be fight of the night? It could be. Salt Papi, I said it from his first fight, I think it was Halal Ham, where the racist guy was doing his ring walk intro music diss track, whatever the fuck that was. Comedy? It wasn't comedy, it was just cringe. But yeah, I think it was him. I thought going in, oh god, this is going to be awful. Two big guys. I don't think either of them know how to fight. I'd be surprised if any of them show any decent movement. I think they'll gasp by the third. And Halal Ham was pretty much what I expected, but Salt Papi wasn't. Even though he didn't look amazing on rewatch, when I watched the fight back, he didn't look amazing. He did certain things in that fight that I looked at and I thought, okay. Little feints, jabs, moving his head off the centre line, his footwork, his hooks, coming in and clinching. He had very good, I think he had very good pacing throughout his fight. He conserved his energy well from the first round to the end. I think he did really well. And then, I said before his fight with Andy Warski, yeah, Salt Papi versus Andy Warski. What he did to Andy Warski was rude. That was rude. Switched his lights out with the first left and then absolutely wrecked him with the second. It was a ripper of a combo. It was beautiful. Within the first, 30, 40 seconds? Down, out. What more can you want? He's got charisma. I said that weird. He's got charisma. He's got ability. You know. He's got pretty much everything that you would want from a fighter. And I think with more fights under his belt, more engagement from him. You see him on Twitter all the time, talking his shit as he should. He's third on this card, from what I can tell. I think he's going to be a top guy. Top. Josh Brueckner, on the other hand, damn. He's a tall guy, big, strong. We saw him against, was it Chase Demore, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Chase Demore. Yes, Chase. Chase looked dog water, man. Chase was dog water. He didn't know how to throw a punch. He didn't know anything, to be honest. He knew nothing. He didn't know the fundamentals of boxing. He didn't pace himself well. He didn't throw anything that excited me and made me go, whoa, this guy could be someone. It just looked, like, he was fighting like I fight in my dreams. The punches were so just shit. Just nothing else to say. He was shit. But Josh Brueckner didn't look amazing either. However, it's hard to look great against a guy who's offering you nothing in the way of, actual technique or skill. He's just winging shots and you're doing your best to get out of the way and try and land something, and he's all over the fucking shop, so you're not really landing anything. Josh has experience. He's got the height on Salt Papi, I'm almost positive. I think by quite a considerable margin from what I've seen. He's probably got the size and weight on him, the reach. I think Salt Papi's in for the hardest night that he's had, and it's really going to cement to me whereabouts he is in the whole YouTube boxing scene. As far as who I would want to win, I think Salt Papi, because as I say, he's very charismatic. I like his energy. I think he's one of the most talented and skilled guys in the scene. So yeah, I'm really excited to see how far he can go. I'd love to see him against Gibb, someone kind of his height, maybe his size, if Salt Papi can slim down and then bulk back up. I don't know, it depends how far he's going to come down, so I guess we'll see on that. But yeah, I'd like Salt Papi to win. Who do I think will win? I could see Josh Brueckner doing it. As good as Salt Papi is, the opponents, I know Josh Brueckner's opponents was even worse than Salt Papi's so far, but I think the opponents, the height, the weight, I think it's going to be too much for Salt Papi to handle. If he does, he will have impressed me more than, you know, most people on this list in terms of opponents and who he's fought and the kind of odds he's up against. So we'll have to see. I would love Salt Papi to do it, but I think Josh Brueckner might just edge it on points. It depends. I haven't seen how well Salt Papi can take a punch, so it'll be interesting to see how, if Josh lands, how Salt Papi reacts to it, whether he's one of these guys who gets instantly buzzed and is out of there, or whether he can come back. Yeah, I think that might be fight of the night though. I'm really excited for that one. The next fight is another good fight, Slim versus Tom Zanetti. Now, Slim is another one of these guys in the scene who is taking it by storm at the moment. He was, for the longest time, kind of disregarded almost by everyone because of the opposition he fought. He was out in Dubai, people didn't respect that. Yeah, Slim's come in and he's taken the game by storm. Obviously, he decimated Temperrr in a horrific fashion. And it's just whether he can go and add another KO to his hit list. Again, I think he's another guy who can go as far as he wants in this scene. He's very charismatic. This seems to be a recurring theme. The top guys are always charismatic. That's, for me, more so than the fighting ability. From YouTubers, I want the charisma, the storyline, the narrative. What they're supposed to bring is entertainment. They're entertainers first and fighters second. That's why boxers are able to get away with not being so likeable and energetic and flashy on camera and relatable and all these things that you want to, you know, connect with these people. And Tyson Furies and people like that have that. Ali obviously was the king of that, legend. But you see a lot of these guys not being really that. Joshua's not overly charismatic, he's not overly energetic, but his skill and where he's gotten to overshadows it, so you still watch regardless. And Slim has both of those things. He's Hannah Montana, he's got the best of both worlds. He has the charisma, he's a shit talker, he's a pot stirrer, he's funny, and you know, he can fight and he can knock people out. He doesn't look like it, but he can, and that's what matters. He's against Tom Zanetti. I don't know much about Tom Zanetti. I believe he was a singer way back when. That's the last time I heard of him, when he was at, I think he was performing at the Why Not Festival. So I have no idea what Tom's like in the ring with his hands. I've heard his name thrown around a couple times though. I believe he was one of the names thrown out there for KSI. So he mustn't be all that bad, which means that Slim's up against another tough opponent. And you've got to commend him at this point. The guy doesn't really seem to be taking too many bums. He wants to fight top guys. He's Gib. He's like a tall, lanky Gib. He wants to fight the top guys. He doesn't care who, he doesn't care when. He wants it now. And he's ready, and he's hungry, and he's coming. And that's what I like about Slim, and it's what I like about Gib. And I think those two, as well as Salt Papi, fighting one another, if the opportunity ever arises, will be one of the biggest fights in YouTube boxing history. Now, finally, last but certainly not least, we've got the surprise twist with KSI, who was supposed to be against Dillon Danis, versus Faze Temperrr, who was supposed to be against one out of 4 mystery opponents. It was Gib, it was, you know, a load of, I think it was Jay Swingler, a load of different fighters. But he's officially fighting KSI. I think that's a better fight than Dillon Danis. I said I would tell you why, and here is why I think so. KSI, I think with Dylan is not a boxer. He's not even really an MMA fighter. He got choked out by a part-time chocolatier, for God's sake. Roll the Mike Bisping clip.
Isn't even a full-time security man. He's not a full-time bouncer. He's actually a chocolatier. That's what he does for a living. The guy's a fucking chocolatier. He's a master of chocolates. That's what he does. And he was a bit short on cash. So he's doing a few hours as a doorman. Oh. He's never done jiu-jitsu. He's done a little bit of Krav Maga.
And you've got to think, if what we've seen of him is very little in the ring, either ring, octagon or boxing, and he got rocked by Anthony Taylor, one punch, and you can say, well, he wasn't really rocked. Well, he was, because he stumbled back into a truck, and the truck kept him up, pretty much. Pretty much, that's what happened. So, I think KSI, with his power, his ferocity, his pace that he puts on you, we've seen it in, obviously the Swarmz and Pineda fights were only 3-rounders, but it's 2 fights in one night, so he should realistically watch his gas tank and pace somewhat. He should conserve a little stamina in the tank for a bit later. But we saw him go out and absolutely try to maul them. Maybe a bit too much try, but he did, in the end, he did maul them. We saw it, they were completely outclassed, not really worth fighting or talking about from most people, but he's up the level. That's another reason why I don't think Dillon Danis was that good of an opponent. I don't know how much of a level change it was. People were saying, oh, Dillon's going to show you levels. Yeah, but people were saying that to Jake Paul with Ben Askren, and we saw what happened. Ben Askren's crap at striking and people were still saying it. So how you can defend a man who hasn't even stepped in the ring for 4 or 5 years, I don't know. I don't know. Yes, he's done it, and yes, he is a peer to the MMA fighters out there somewhat, but he's not. If you fought any time in the last couple of years, he's no peer of yours because he hadn't fought. So I don't know how people were coming to his defense saying that KSI was going to get surprised or whatever. I think Danis was less experienced than Temperrr in boxing. He's shorter than Temperrr. He's a southpaw as Temperrr is, and he probably weighs a bit more than Temperrr does, but not by much. So, and now replaced by, I believe it's a 6'4" Temperrr. That's a pretty big challenge. We've seen KSI struggle with the height, especially against Logan Paul. The height was what brought out these wild looping punches, and if KSI's claiming that he's better technically than he was before, then I'm a little worried that he's now taken a fight against a taller guy, because that is where his technique seems to fade away. He seems to overextend, reach, come in wildly to try and land a punch, and against Logan it worked because Logan was very hesitant, but we've seen Temperrr is not afraid to throw bangs. He's not afraid to throw down. But, and here's a but, Temperrr's not good on the inside. His short game has been lacking. We've seen it against Slim. We saw it, he got rocked on the inside, Slim came in, knocked him and rocked him, and Temperrr was done after that. He shelled up and he fell back onto the ropes, and then he tried to land a counter, and when he tried, I think it was a left hand counter, when he tried, the right hand to Slim landed on his chin, knockout, boom, neck snapping on the rope. We've seen that, and Slim was doing that throughout the fight. So if KSI gets in there, and I think KSI can, and I think KSI is probably a harder hitter than Slim, just based on his muscle mass and from what I've heard from people, I think it could be a very bad night for Temperrr. But if, like we saw in Temperr's last fight, he's improved in that short range, but he also capitalises, let's not forget, on what he's got. He's 6'4", his range, he can pop that jab out all night, he should be able to, and KSI should not be able to touch him. And if he does that and he keeps pumping the jab out, stays at range, picks his shots, straight punches, not really going for hooks, because if you're hooking, that's probably going to lead into KSI's favour. That's more of a short range game. Straights is more of a range keeper because it's the longest punches you're throwing are your straights. These aren't, because that's keeping you a distance. But if I'm doing that, you're here. You must be here. If I'm trying to hook in, but if I'm like jabbing straight or right at you, you know it's what it is. If he can do that and keep KSI on the end of that all night, it'd be that as his jab and then that as the follow-up. If you can do that and land this big punch, or as we've seen KSI's kryptonite appears to be, the uppercut. If he can land an uppercut followed by a left right or a straight right, could be lights for KSI, and I think that's what makes this fight much more interesting than Danis, because KSI is actually in more danger, I think, from temper than against Danis. I don't think Danis would have brought much to the table at all. I think Temper will go out there to win, and I think he has the ability to win and to do it in devastating fashion. Likewise, I think KSI is going to go out there to do it, and I also think he has the ability to do it, and to do it in horrible fashion as well. Who do I think will win? I've got to say I'll give the edge to KSI. I give the edge to KSI purely on the fact that we've seen Temper maybe slightly crumble under that pressure. We've seen KSI bring it. I think Slim and KSI very similar in the way that they bring pressure. Slim looked very unorthodox in his fight. He was keeping his head very low against Temper, so low that the ref had to warn them. So I think if KSI can almost come in with a bit of an unnatural technique, which we know he has anyway, his punches have never looked crisp and clean to the level where you'd say he's made leaps and bounds in his technique. He's always looked a little loose and a little shaky in areas, but I think that might play into KSI's favour. Now, if Temper can do the opposite and stay at the range, as I say, I think it's Temper's game, but I think KSI might edge it just on that pressure, coming on the inside, landing big shots to the body, up to the head. I think it's going to be too much for Temper, and I think it depends on how many rounds. I think 4th round knockout KSI. Who do I want to win? As I'm from the UK, I'm going to go with my homeboy KSI. Not homeboy, it sounds weird coming from a white guy, but homeboy is in from England. Yeah, I've supported KSI through every one of his fights, I think, other than his Joe Weller one, for particular comments that he made in the run-up to that, but water under the bridge. Yeah, I think I wouldn't be mad if either of them won. To be honest, I think they'll probably rematch. I would like KSI to win, so then maybe he can go on to face Jake Paul. And that's another thing we need to talk about. Temper, how close will he bring KSI to facing Jake Paul? That I don't know. He's better than his last two, Swarmz and Pineda for sure, but KSI's fought, Jake rather, has fought some top guys, better than Temper, you would say. So I don't know. And now with Jake having his little foray into MMA, where does that take him? Where does that leave us? Will Jake be fighting in boxing this year, or will he not? I think he said he's probably aiming to fight once or twice this year. Whether that's MMA or boxing, I'm not too sure. But that might be better, a better plan that maybe him and KSI have agreed behind closed doors to allow them to close that gap. But with Jake Paul being as petty as he is, do I think he would do that? I'm not too sure. So you might have to take that with a pinch of salt. Yeah, that's going to be it from me. That's the entire card broken down, who I think is going to win, who I want to win. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I think we're only 3 days away now of recording. Yeah, 3 days. So I'm going to be watching it live. I'll probably film my reactions to it. I probably won't be able to put any footage out there, but I'll try my best to find a way around it. Yeah, I might put a video out before the fight, but if not, and I don't see you before then I hope to see you soon. Hope you have a great weekend, great rest of the week, and I will see you later.